Go ahead.
All right. First one is, could you describe your role a little bit for us, and what are some of your primary responsibilities?
The first thing I want to just say is I'm sorry I'm not with the Summit Trail
you.
team today. I really have enjoyed over the last few years being able to work more and more with not only the students but the staff at Summit Trail. So I'm sorry I can't meet you on the bus, but my team will. I am the Heather Schoonover, the Director of Community Development, and people are like, what in the world is community development? We're here at Mill Creek campus, which is in downtown Olathe, and we have a side wing of offices, and we would help your school and actually the entire district with connecting the community to the classroom and the school. But we also work with the federal programs for students who deal with residential transition as well as food insecurity.
Awesome. Cool. Could you talk a little bit about McKinney-Vento and also approximately how many ST students use that program?
Okay. So I serve as the district's McKinney-Vento, which is, that's a confusing word in my opinion. It is two senators out in Washington, D.C. that started the federal program in 1988. It's technically the homeless program, but when we train at Summit Trail, the counselors, the principals, and we hope that the teachers, paras, lunchroom staff come alongside of it. We like to bring dignity, so we use the word students in transition instead of saying, oh, you're the homeless kiddo. But I want to be clear, if I could today, share a little bit to your team, but I also serve as the foster care liaison. So that is two totally separate programs. So you asked me, what is McKinney-Vento? It is, the federal definition is a student who lacks a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence. In our school district, just to kind of give you a sense, in the United States today, there's 1 million students who are homeless. In Johnson County, there's about 1,200. In our district, we see anywhere, last year we ended about 350. And Summit Trail does have students who qualified for McKinney-Vento. When you look at that definition, a majority are doubled up. So you might have people living in a garage or an attic or couch surfing. You could have some middle school students who are not with their parents and they couch surf. We have students who live in motels. We have students who live in cars. And hopefully at some point your team can see where a shelter is in our community. And we do have homeless shelters. There's not many, but that's what a student at your school would qualify for that program.
What areas of need do you see most in our community and our feeder patterns?
In the Summit Trail feeder pattern, I would say, in my opinion, the staff at Summit Trail, the number one thing would be awareness, that they kind of are looking for a student who might be dealing with that. And I say that is a need because we do have services for food. I feel pretty good in our service areas. We have weekend back snack programs and we have food pantries. That's not perfect, but we do have, breakfast and lunch at school. So food I feel is pretty taken care of. One need I am seeing more and more is laundry services. There's some talk in this town to try to help that. It cost a family who lives in a motel with 4 kids about $50 to $60 a week to do a load of laundry. So anywhere for donations on that, laundry detergent, that type of thing. Globally in your service area, the challenge for the Summit Trail families is that Summit Trail is unique in my opinion. You could have a kid who is dropped off in a Mercedes, and in the classroom you could have a kid sitting next to that student and they don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. And so what the barrier is in the Summit Trail attendance area is affordable housing. You do have some duplexes your attendance area actually has where Catholic Charities has, it's on Pine Street, and there are some students that live in those. They might not always go to Summit Trail, they might go to their school of origin before they lost housing. But so affordable housing, laundry, support financially for transportation. Our department always needs gift cards for Quick Trip or 7-Eleven. And the reason is when a homeless student wants to go to see their child play football at Summit Trail, play basketball, go to parent-teacher conferences, the district does not have funding for that transportation. So things like that are important.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What organizations could our staff contribute to, either with their personal time or other resources that could help our students?
Okay. So Summit Trail, a couple things. I think you guys are middle school, and so Mission Southside, and I don't have my stats right in front of it of how many are food insecure at Summit Trail, but I do know through the years there's been some that go home that do not have food at home, and so we send home a weekend back snack program. Mission Southside has a volunteer opportunity where staff can go and do that. That's a neat thing. Very close to your middle school, there are some apartment complexes that might not quite feed into Summit Trail, but it's very close. There are support groups. Actually, that's also through Mission Southside that does in the summer, if staff wants to go out and do homework help at these apartment complexes. Other areas, if they rally together and do a drive for needs that the district had, I just shared some of those. Through our alumni association, we would guarantee a winter coat. We have churches that help with underwear and socks, but the laundry and the pieces of gas cards or haircuts, so they can go to Great Clips or something like that. Those are all pieces. But to get out in our community, I think Center of Grace also has something. Center of Grace is down the street here, and that's where the Boys and Girls Club is. But Center of Grace is doing meals for about 90 people every Tuesday and Wednesday. And another agency that is 7 days a week that they will use any of your PD days, or if you guys want to rally, is Starfish Project. Mm-hmm. And Starfish Project helps us with our dignity bags. You notice I don't use the word toiletry kits, that type of thing. It's a dignity bag where a student could have a larger bottle of shampoo, and they're serving of our service area in the district. They send 3 meals out to 300 people a day on sometimes. Catholic Charities is another place, and also Salvation Army. Those are all of our partners that would allow staff to come in and help with a certain project.
Awesome. So as we go on our Ride on Our Bus tour, what do you think we should be looking for? Like, what lens should we have?
So as you get on your bus, and I commend Summit Trail. I just think this is a brilliant idea that you're going out into the neighborhoods when the kids walk through your doors. So look around at the different neighborhoods. You have some schools that feed into you that might have some Title I situations. Every elementary that feeds into Summit Trail had McKinney-Vento and foster care students. Okay. You might look for homes that might need repair. Okay. And I'll say that too. The city of Olathe has a kind of a yard or snow brigade. Like when people might not be able to get out, they might not even have a snow shovel to shovel their snow. That's another volunteer opportunity for students and for staff. But look at how many cars are in a home. Sometimes that is an indicator that there might be 15 people living in a room. In your service area, there are homes where people rent out rooms. Okay, so there's a duplex or a home, and people who have bad credit, so they had an eviction. They do not have the ability to get a new lease in their name, so they rent for cash rooms very close to your school. So one indicator when I'm going around is looking at how many cars are in there. That's not always, I don't want to say that, oh my gosh, if there's a lot, but that's sometimes an indicator. I don't want to stereotype by any means, but the other thing is, just because I've been doing this so long, I know the area. So you will see people sitting in parks sometimes. That's an indicator. Sometimes if you see them there for a long time, they have no place to go. McDonald's, if you see a kid there all day, that might be where they actually live at night. We have some kids who stay there because it's cool and there is Wi-Fi, and they sleep in a bench in there at night. So I would say look at those on the McKinney-Vento homeless side. On the foster care side, foster care is a different thing. That's under Division of Children and Family, and a student is placed in custody and they would live with a foster care parent. So it's not like you can go around and there's, I'm a foster care home or I'm a homeless home, but it's just kind of be aware of your surroundings. In our jurisdiction, in your service area, you will see, in fact I just saw it today, you'll see people walking around with a suitcase, and they live outside at night. I know some of them, and they're just walking on certain streets close to your area. So that would be kind of a lens that I would look at, and just be aware of that. I think the staff, and I have talked to some of the students there, but always be respectful, because there are people who have seen more by 8 a.m. than we ever will in a lifetime. And so whether it's a staff person, because we have had staff that have dealt with homelessness because they're in domestic violence situations and they might live at safe home, or they're just totally struggling. And I think we're all human, and we all need to be respectful of each other and what people go through. Totally. Does that help you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything we didn't mention?
Number wise, I would say Summit Trail last school year, you had 2 McKinney-Vento students. We never say who they are. That's a kind of a confidential piece. I know that's hard. There's just times that I'll communicate with the principal or the counselor, and I'll say, hey, talk to the teacher or the coach or something, and we have funds to take care of if they need shoes for basketball or that type of thing. When a student qualifies for McKinney-Vento, automatic enrollment. So we would have kids in our district. We have about 50 kids from the war in Ukraine. So you might see those. You don't have any right now at your building. People have fires, so they qualify that because of that. I think talk to students and make sure on staff. There are some kids that ride our service called assisted transportation, and it breaks my heart when I hear those kids say that the other kids at school are teasing them because they're on that van. It's hard enough that they might be dropped off at a shelter or a motel, so I think really talking about, treating each other with respect. I would say on your foster care side, you had more foster care students. You had 3. It might be interesting for the Summit Trail staff to know that there might be a student coming to your school from Missouri, or because they live in City Union Mission, so they may have lost their housing, and the only shelter they can find, a dad may live in a domestic violence or a mother domestic violence shelter, and we will bring them from where they're at back to the school of origin, because you never want a kid every time you lose a house to change schools. So that's part of the federal law on that. So that's kind of numbers. I would applaud you guys to get out of your walls and you're looking at your community. As you leave Mill Creek campus, at the intersection of Santa Fe or 135th and Poplar, on one side is the shelter in town. It's a family shelter. It's apartments, and then across the street is Catholic Charities. Number one thing I want Summit Trail to know is that community development, we have a variety of programs. So we've talked about McKinney-Vento and foster care. We also oversee the volunteers. So there's 600 volunteers that go into our district. If you ever see a child who needs a mentor, lunch buddy, or just struggling, we have background checked mentors who come in and are with kids. If a teacher just needs help, you've got a speech contest coming up, they're prepping for 21st Century Academies, or you need help in the office or in a classroom, we have a lot of volunteers that can come in and help. So reach out to us on that. You have Adopt a School partners, and so we facilitate getting each school a business, civic, faith, and parent partner, helping get those. So when a student needs something at Summit Trail, we had a kiddo who was in special ed that needed a ramp and needed different things, and so we were able to work with partners to get that done very, very quickly. Summit Trail staff, I want you to know that we have Impact Olathe. We're not a guarantee, but here's what we do. We prioritize homeless families, but then all of our 30,000 students and their parents can access this. We have 18 social service agencies in one room every other week. So when a teacher or a principal or counselor would call and say a family needs a job, or utility assistance, healthcare resources, health insurance, we used to say, oh, call this number, call this number. Well, that's a barrier. They might be working 3 jobs, they don't have gas money, whatever. So we bring 12 families into Impact Olathe. We hold it over at the Salvation Army, and the families can go and meet and get help from all the agencies at one spot. That has been helpful. Last year we had 7 employees access it because they had a bump in the road, and we also help families that are not on McKinney-Vento but who are on the cusp and need help. So I hope
That's awesome.
Thanks for your time, Heather.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.